This is the story of the Vikings, a people the world still finds mysterious. Their name brings images of long ships cutting through cold waves, warriors with shields, hidden treasure, lost kingdoms, and legends that shaped history forever. But behind the myths, behind the stories passed down for centuries, the Vikings were far more complex than most people imagine. They were explorers, builders, thinkers, and creators. And today, we travel back into their world to understand who they truly were. The story begins in the far north, in a land carved by ice and stone, where mountains stand like giants and the sea never rests. Life in this region was harsh, winters felt endless, food was not guaranteed, and simply surviving demanded strength, intelligence, and unity. Out of this unforgiving environment came one of the most powerful cultures in history. The Vikings were not just born from the land, they were shaped by it. Everything around them, from the storms to the forests to the sea, molded their identity. The sea was their lifeline. It connected villages, carried traders across continents, and turned ordinary people into fearless explorers. Viking longships were masterpieces, beautiful, fast, and surprisingly lightweight. Their design was so perfect that some historians say no other culture matched their speed or flexibility for hundreds of years. These ships could glide across shallow rivers, slice through open oceans, and travel farther than most people of that time believed possible. Because of these ships, the Vikings reached places that shocked the world. They explored the Mediterranean, North Africa, the Middle East, and even North America 5 centuries before Columbus. They discovered new lands, built settlements, and left traces that still remain today. Their world was incredibly wide, and they expanded it with every journey. Still, the Vikings became most famous for their battles. Their raids were fast, unexpected, and carefully planned. They studied the tides. They learned how to approach a village from angles that caught their enemies off guard. Their warriors trained from childhood, learning how to handle weapons, strengthen their bodies, and sharpen their minds. But despite their fierce reputation, Viking warfare was not blind chaos. It was strategy, discipline, and purpose. Many raids had political motivations. Others came from necessity, or from the search for new opportunities in lands richer than their own. At home, Viking society was far more organized than most people think. Their families lived in long houses, which were large wooden buildings filled with warmth from a central fire. Inside, daily life was busy and structured. Women held significant power. They could own land, request a divorce, manage trade, and run the households while men traveled. Children helped with farming, crafting, and taking care of animals. Communities relied on every member to survive. Because life in the north demanded cooperation, their belief system was rich with emotion, wisdom, and imagination. They saw the world as a place shaped by gods, giants, and forces beyond human understanding. Odin represented wisdom and sacrifice. Thor represented strength and protection. Freya represented beauty, war, and desire. Loki represented unpredictability. These myths were not just stories, they were lessons about bravery, honor, loyalty, and how to face the hardships of life. For the Vikings, every storm had meaning, every mountain had a spirit, and every victory or failure was connected to something greater. And for warriors, death was not the end of their story. They believed that those who lived with courage could enter Valhalla, a hall of heroes where the bravest prepared for the final battle at the end of time. This belief shaped the Viking mindset. It gave them strength in battle, confidence in danger, and comfort in loss. It connected them to their ancestors and inspired them to live boldly. The Vikings were also master artists. Their jewelry, carvings, weapons, and running stones were covered in patterns, symbols, and animals that held personal and spiritual meaning. Their runic alphabet was more than just a writing system, it was a way of expressing identity, faith, and magic. Some runes were used to record events. Others were used in rituals for protection or good fortune. Even today, running stones stand across Scandinavia like messages from another world, keeping the voices of their ancestors alive. Trade played a major role in Viking life. They carried fur, amber, iron, wool, and handmade goods to distant markets. In return, they brought home silver from the Arab world, spices from the east, glass beads, silk, and rare treasures that felt almost mythical in the north. Their trading networks connected cultures that had never met before. The Vikings became bridges between worlds, sharing ideas, goods, and traditions across continents. But their legacy didn't stop with trade. The Vikings built settlements in Ireland, England, Iceland, Greenland, and many other regions. Some of these settlements grew into major cities. They blended with local cultures, married into local families, adopted new customs, and eventually transformed the political and cultural landscapes of entire regions. The Viking Age was not only an age of raids, it was an age of expansion and transformation. Leadership in Viking society was based on respect. A good leader was chosen for wisdom, fairness, and strength, not just power. Communities held gatherings called things, where free men discussed issues, settled disputes, voted on laws, and made decisions together. It was one of the early forms of democratic decision-making in Europe, showing how organized and thoughtful Viking society truly was. But every great era reaches its end. Over time, Europe changed. Kingdoms strengthened, armies grew, fortifications improved. Christianity spread across the continent. The Vikings began to change as well. Many adopted Christianity. Many settled permanently in the lands they once raided. Their identity blended with the cultures around them, and slowly, the age of Viking raids faded away. Yet their influence never disappeared. They left behind languages filled with Viking words, cities built on Viking foundations, stories that survived 1,000 years, and artifacts buried under forests, mountains, and oceans. Archaeologists still discover longships preserved in cold soil, weapons decorated with runes, silver hards buried for safekeeping, and treasure hidden beneath the sea. These discoveries continue to reveal new details about Viking life, details that challenge old assumptions and bring us closer to their world. Perhaps the most mysterious part of Viking history lies underwater. Many believe that countless ships, statues, and treasures were lost in storms, battles, or sudden disasters. When divers explore cold northern seas, they sometimes find pieces of a forgotten world, shields, coins, weapons, or wooden beams that once carried warriors across the ocean. Each object tells a story. Each discovery reminds us that the Vikings lived with intensity, ambition, and courage. The Vikings remind us of something important. Greatness is built through resilience. They survived unforgiving winters, dangerous seas, and endless challenges. Yet they created a culture that still fascinates the world today. Their courage pushed them to explore lands no one had mapped. Their curiosity helped them learn from others. Their strength shaped countries, languages, and myths that still exist today. In the end, the Vikings show us that life rewards those who dare to explore beyond what is comfortable. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They did not fear the unknown. They built their world through movement, effort, and discovery. And because of that, they became legends. As we leave the world of the Vikings behind, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Their story never really ended. It simply changed shape. The people themselves disappeared, but their influence continued to echo across the world. Every coastline they touched, every river they sailed, every community they mixed with still carries traces of them today. Their spirit exists in languages, in traditions, in place names, and even in the way we imagine adventure. But the deeper legacy of the Vikings is not found in their weapons or their raids. It lives in their mindset. They believed the world was meant to be explored, not feared. They believed that strength did not come from comfort, but from facing the unknown. And they believed that stories, courage, and identity could survive long after a person was gone. These ideas pushed them beyond the limits that trapped others. They traveled farther, fought harder, learned faster, and built more deeply because they lived with purpose. Today, archaeologists continue to uncover the mysteries they left behind. A buried ship sealed under layers of soil, a silver hod hidden away for a moment that never came, a wooden carving with symbols no one fully understands, a helmet or blade that once belonged to someone whose story we can only imagine. Each discovery pulls the Viking world closer to ours, reminding us that history is never fully finished. And maybe that is why the Vikings still fascinate us. They lived with a level of intensity that modern life rarely demands. They pushed boundaries without knowing what waited in the distance. They dared to cross oceans with nothing but faith in their skills and strength. Their story speaks to a part of us that still wants adventure, still seeks meaning, and still dreams of becoming something greater. In every way, the Vikings prove that legends are not born from perfection. They are born from courage. They are born from the willingness to act when others hesitate. They are born from people who choose motion over fear, discovery over safety, and purpose over comfort. And that is why, long after their ships stopped sailing and their voices faded, the Vikings remain alive in our imagination, guiding us, challenging us, and reminding us to chase the unknown, just as they once did.